I have gypsy origins. It was hard for me.
This is Tunay telling us how it is to be a Roma minority.
This is how people are going to treat you once they know your background. Imagine how it could be for the people who are belonging to gypsy community. Grow out of poverty. You do not have means. Your family doesn't have houses. Your family doesn't have a stable job. And I do not deny that crime doesn't exist in Roma community.
You don't want to steal or to sell drugs because you want to sell drugs. It's because you have to at some point.
And how do you associate now to the Roma community?
I feel so incapable because I cannot help them at the moment.
If you were to be born again, would you want to be a minority again or a privileged person?
You have a minority background, or what is a personal experience that you are talking about?
To be frank, I think I am also trying to figure out who I am and what I am, in philosophical context, of course. I am Turkish and I started living in Austria for 3 years now. I'm a data engineer. I'm 27 years old. I have lived in Budapest before coming here. So I feel like I am a migrant. This is what identifies
all of
me.
Seems like you're a migrant, bro.
A lot of migrants.
Yes.
Room of migrants.
The room of migrants is crazy.
I think we're all, yeah. I have a Roma background, and for people who are not familiar with the term, I can explain it. The common and derogative word for is gypsy. So this is what the Roma community is known, especially in Europe and also where I come from in Turkey. So I have gypsy origins, and it is my core identity. I feel because it shaped how I approach life, how I see events, how I see people, including my own family. I put everything into that context in my life and what is my objective in life is.
So it's a community, right? Because at the beginning, when you were presenting yourself, you were saying you are trying to figure out who you are in a philosophical mindset, right?
Yes, of course. This is a very nice point. The first thing is I put it into social context, economical context. And in the economical context, we can say the gypsy community is actually underprivileged because of the historical reason that they were segregated, they were not well educated. So at the time, they are not fully employed, most of the people who are belonging to gypsy community. I am using the community because you put it that way, but I wouldn't say that it's a community. So there is this economical underprivileged aspect to that.
Okay.
And the social aspect is these people are usually living, including me. I was living in a very disadvantaged neighborhood. I know that in Europe they are usually segregated. In Turkey it was not segregated, but practically it was segregated. Not by law, but practically.
By the system, right? By all the interactions with all other people, the norms that are in the society and stuff like this, right? Or
it is basically shaped by the economical circumstances. Like as I mentioned, the Roma people are not well educated, and because of that reason, they are not employed. Apart from the other reasons that I am going to name afterwards. So this poor economical condition actually makes them to live in neighborhoods which are extremely poor. And populated by other minorities. If I have to give an example from Turkey, like I was living in a neighborhood which was mainly populated by Roma people and also Kurdish people who are minorities as well. And how was the experience there? I think if I'm going to share the experience, it's going to make more sense to you.
Go for it.
So in my neighborhood, we were people coming from Roma origin and also Kurdish origin, and some Arab people were living who were migrated from the other countries into Turkey.
What does that mean, Roma origin? Like what is the thing that brings you together? Like what is a common denominator?
So from the economical point of view, poverty. That's the first thing, because if you are poor, then you can only afford to rent in that neighborhoods. You know, historically speaking, it is actually declared that the Roma people are coming from northern India and actually escaping from some sort of violence.
You as a person, you need to be born in a Roma family to be a Roma. Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you can also see the differences in the phenotype, how the people are looking, like, you know, darker skin color, bigger mouth than the mainstream, and the tendency towards music and so on. So you can really distinguish people by the appearance. And on top of that, they have their own language. But of course, in Turkey, the Roma community is not speaking it anymore because they have embraced the Turkish language. But in Europe, I think in some countries, they are still speaking that. So, you know, it is basically a different race. And in the neighborhood where I come from, is basically, I can talk about the outlook of it. You know, you have a couple of schools, but these schools are actually not well maintained. In Turkey, there is also a grading system for it. The teachers and the teachers who do not have higher scores, then they are assigned to this kind of less demanded neighborhoods. And also the system in Turkey is that if you are going to be enrolled in a primary school, then you have to go to a school which is near to your neighborhood. So do you know how oppressive is this? Because like there's these schools that you can only attend as a Roma kid. You want to, you know, get better grades, but teachers are not as qualified as the teachers who are teaching in other districts, which are posher districts. So you are actually forced to go to these schools. And then what you are taught. I can give you an example again from my experience. Like in our mathematics courses.
So you were in one of the schools, right?
I was, because I born in the neighborhood and I was attending that school because it was compulsory for me to go to school near my neighborhood.
And so most of the people you were with were Romas.
Roma and Kurdish, like again, the minority children.
Okay, and just before you continue on the experience, like, so most of the people were Roma and Kurdish, and the other Turkish people, let's say, that are not minorities.
They were not there.
They were trying to avoid it. Is it like this?
Of course. I mean, I do not think that any Turkish or middle class family would send their children to that school. And they didn't have to because they are living in better districts, so in better neighborhoods, so they can go to that schools, you know. They could be educated with better teachers.
But I have a question before you go on. Sorry.
Yes.
If you are a rich Roma person in Turkey, could you go to the school of the people who are not minorities?
I mean, this is a very, very wonderful question.
Yeah.
Because, you know, even if you are rich, you go to posh districts and then you come back because you feel that you do not belong there, because they see how you look. They know your family is the mainstream society. And then you feel discriminated, and then you come back to your circumstances.
It's like something you cannot escape.
It's something that you cannot escape if you do not look like or act like mainstream.
But is it like from outside that people tell you are not accepted, or also from inside, meaning like I'm Roma, and if I'm in a rich place, you feel yourself that you it's not you? Is it the way you feel as a rich Roma? I mean, I don't know if you have ever been in this situation, but because you describe Roma people as poor, right? And
mostly, yes.
And I'm like, so is it only the outside that is rejecting you, or is it you who is like feeling that you will never fit in a rich environment? Like you feel it's part of you to be kind of, you know, assigned to these rather poor environments.
I think it is multi-dimensional and from both sides, honestly. Because, you know, if we are going to talk about a child, the child goes there and the family that the child raised in is most probably not that well educated and still continues to bear the impressions of Roma culture, right? I am not saying that something is better or worse. I am just saying that the culture is different. And then this child is raised by that culture. And then when they go to a mainstream school, then the child might have a personality conflict, like an imposter syndrome, you know? Oh, wow, I see those kids, like they look whiter than I am. So am I like different? And the other children will try to also get to know the child, you know, but they're like, okay, who is he or who is she? So they're going to be kind of mutually exclusive towards each other, even without an intention. So I just don't think that it is like unilateral, but it's like more of a bilateral thing, you know, if you're a child, especially.
Yeah. And you believed in this stuff as a child, right? What has been told to you that this is your condition somehow?
I honestly didn't, because I was raised in the neighborhood and I didn't have interaction with the mainstream that much when I was a child, you know. So I can come back to the point, like I was seeing the oppression in education, you know.
So the math class,
So the math class, I was talking about. Yes. So our math teacher was like, we had a very political situation back then about our government. I'm not going to go this direction. You know, the Turkish politics sucks. But back then it started. You know, it's like a 23 years or something, and I'm only 27. So, yeah, she was explaining us the political situation instead of teaching math, you know, to 11 years old kids. So, and I don't think that she really had the idea that these children are going to listen to me anyways. And when I act like this, that I do not teach, but I talk about politics, none of the parents are going to come and complain, because they also do not know, you know, what is supposed to be taught. So we were not giving the enough attention at the school to be taught well, you know. And you see that the education is kind of ripped off from that society who is supposed to grow out of poverty. You do not have means. Like, your family doesn't have houses, your family doesn't have a stable job, most of them, you know. Yeah. And if you are going to get out of this circle, which is like the capitalist propaganda, like if you try hard, you can reach your dreams and whatsoever.
American dream.
Just try harder, man.
Just try hard.
Just try hard.
Anyone can make it. Like
anyone can still make it, but it requires lots of effort, right? Or intelligence.
And it doesn't take into account the whole social dynamics, right?
Social dynamics, exactly. And then even if you somehow make up in the society from the educational perspective, like, for example, I was really loving to go home and, you know, learn something by myself and, you know, read somehow. And I was able to get out of the situation which was given to me by the society, you know. But my family was also very, I want to thank them. I think my father and my mother is going to listen to that, you know. They were always emphasizing that you should learn and you should study
as a way out
of the system, you know.
Yeah, of the pain that has been endured for years and years, right? Kind of.
Exactly. Like my father, he is working from the 9 years old. He's 54 years old.
Since he's 9?
Yes. For many, many years.
That's more than all of us together.
Absolutely.
That's more than I'll ever work my whole life.
That's for sure, man.
But wow.
Since 9.
Since 9. This is what the Roma children are forced to, honestly, you know?
And he feels basically he never had the opportunities to get out of this, right?
No.
And so,
I mean, even if I didn't talk that much to my father about that topic, I feel ashamed. You
now
know?
You have the time to talk to him.
I had the time. I had to go and tell him, "Lo, what did you do?" You know, but the thing is, even if you get out of it economically and by education, it's so hard to get out of it mentally and psychologically. And if you are a man, I think it's even harder, because I'm trying to be politically correct.
Slippery slope. Take your time.
Take your time.
But what I'm trying to say is this. I am not bragging about my appearance or whatever. Just please do not take it wrong.
You can.
But I just do not look like Roma.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, like, people were not discriminating against me, you know? But if I really bear the characteristics of Roma, then I think I would have a way different experience. You know what I mean? Because people didn't know that I come from Roma background. And I'm also a woman, you know, you look tiny, cute, and they do not suspect anything from you. But if a man goes and they see that, they understand it's Roma, then they close all the doors to those people. Like, even if a person has a degree and they see that this person has a Roma background, then
would never be
they're not going to give jobs. They're not going to give houses. Like my aunt, for example, she wanted to rent an apartment, and she always pays on time and so on. But they just didn't give her the apartment because she was Roma and she looked like Roma. There is no substantial reason. You know, I know there's like stereotypical perspective towards it. And I do not deny that crime doesn't exist in Roma community. This is something we can talk further. Because I also understand the mainstream and their concerns about that. And I do not deny that we do not cause crime and we do not have crime in our neighborhoods. We do. Like, when I was raising, I heard the guns, literally. I saw people selling drugs in my neighborhood. I called the police myself. They didn't come, you know. But this is very important that the police didn't come, you know.
Yeah.
And the police is mainstream.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
But then you said you don't look Roma, right?
I don't.
And then you got a different type of treatment because of that, you know? So once you told those people that you were Roma, did they treat you differently?
Of course. Like, I mean, I didn't have many experiences that they treat me badly. I had one experience, and I think it was a fundamental one. I was having a relationship. And then the mother of my...
Oh no, I'm scared. I'm scared.
Don't be.
I'm scared.
When you hear the mom of the is the boyfriend.
That's Turkish drama.
Turkish drama, hell no.
So she was very fond of me, like, you know. And when she heard that I was Roma and coming from a Roma family, she told me, hey, I really like you as a person. But, you know, if it is going to be serious... Your family is Roma. We are not Roma. So I don't think that this is going to work.
Oh, my days.
You know, it's always like this when someone tells you, I really like you, and you hear, but. And you're like, that's not looking good, you know?
So just because of the fact that your family is Roma and his family was, I don't know, Turkish, whatever,
Turkish
you know?
origins, yes.
She was against it.
Yes. And, you know, back then I was 22 years old. I didn't know how to react. And I was trying to understand her because, you know, cultural differences can break a marriage,
of
really.
Course, yeah. I mean, it's complicated, definitely.
Yes, I mean, but in my mind, I was not even thinking about marriage. So she just...
You just wanted to go there, meet people.
Grandma, I just want the food, man.
Give me chicken, man.
Give me this Turkish Adana kebab.
But then it was like the reality check on my face, you know? Like, this is how people are going to treat you once they know your background. It was hard for me to go through, and then I understood, like, really how it could be for the Roma, which is more disadvantageous than I was. Like, because I can tell you guys, I told you, like, I am very grateful for my family because they didn't force me to work, neither my sister. They were quite supportive. They gave their everything to us, you know. But there are also Roma families which are having so many children, and so that children can work for the family.
There's pressure,
and
right?
There's pressure. They cannot continue school because they have to work from the young ages. And young ages, I gave the example of my father. I mean, like, super young, like 7, 8, 9. And then they're just stuck in the circle, you know. Then they start selling drugs because there is no way out. I mean, I'm not justifying. Please do not take me wrong. It's also the criticism from my side. But I also try to understand, like, especially the men, like, they try to go into school. That's
Roma men.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just try to understand their life circle. Like, you are born in a Roma family and you're a Roma child, you're a boy, you're a girl, whatever, and you try to go to school. And then your family is like, oh, she's or he's not good at school, so I will just send her or him to work. Because this is the Roma mentality, I am telling you. In mainstream, they would be like, okay, force the children, maybe
Getting
just
private
get
teachers.
private teachers or whatever, but you cannot do it in a Roma family. Then they're like, okay, then you have to work.
Why is it like this? What you just explained, like as soon as the kid is not successful at school, right? That's what you said. Then automatically, okay, then you need to work now.
Because they do not have the means to support in further areas. Okay, if a child is not good at school, either they have to be good at art, sports.
You need to give something, right?
You need to give
Or we need to
something.
get something out of you, kind of.
Yes. I mean, if you're not succeeding in that, then you have to work. Then most of the kids, they do not like to study, right?
That's so heavy for a kid, right?
It is.
Because a kid, I mean, in my opinion, he needs to be loved unconditionally and to be, to have space to develop itself, him or herself. And then you tell him, yo, brother, you have to step up. If you don't step up, then bring us money because for God's sake, like we need something, right?
This is it.
But that's violent, right?
It is.
Or do you find it violent?
Of course, I do. But it's also like, you have so many siblings at one place. Like, I am really talking about one-room apartments. You have 8 siblings or whatsoever, It's also another issue.
So a lot of your friends were in this situation?
Yes.
Or people you were having in your school or neighborhood?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There was a stabbing event in my school.
Stabbing.
In where? In the school?
In the school. Yes.
Who got stabbed?
One of my classmates. Yes. And he was 12 years old. And another guy came to the school from the neighborhood and he stabbed him.
An adult?
No, he was also, I think, 15, 13, something like that.
And it was, do you know why? Or like, was it like...
Because of a girl.
Oh, my days, guys. Kids.
Yeah, but it's like stabbing someone. You're a kid. And I'm coming from that kind of school. But anyways, just go to the point. So these kids are sent to school and they do not succeed as most of the kids, but they do not have the other option. They just go to workforce and they start working in like very underprivileged circumstances. They sell lemon in the bazaars, or they become a musician going to the weddings, or they become a shoemaker, as my father is.
To fulfill the expectations, right?
Yes. And then they start making money, but they are poor, they are not very educated, they are men, and they are a girl. If they are a girl, they go dancing in the clubs and so on. And when you come from this kind of background and you try to blend into the mainstream society, it is really not possible. You are just stuck in your neighborhood. And after some time, you're just also tired of the circumstances. You see that the society is not accepting you. And then what you do? You sell drugs because you can make money. You do not have to leave your neighborhood. People come to your neighborhood. So you are not going to see these judgy eyes from the outside. And the people inside, either they are going to be scared from you because you are the drug lord, you have the money, you have the means,
Yeah.
And you kind of gain kind of a power in the neighborhood, but you never leave the neighborhood, because if you leave the neighborhood, you lose that power. And this is the psychology of the people after some time, And this is why they are trapped in that circle. But I think it is like systemic oppression. I do not justify these people, but I am just telling you how they come
No,
to
that's a wider view, right?
Wider view.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I was also very disturbed as a woman in that neighborhood. I didn't feel safe, I was also scared.
Yeah, you have to understand, right?
I was always walking like my face looking forward. I was not looking left or right, because this is my father taught me,
What the fuck?
And when I actually left, I was not still able to look around for some time, You
have to force yourself, right?
You're so used to it, right?
Just to go straight so that nobody is going to talk to me, nobody is going to harass me. And then there was like this judgment also from my own people. Like they were telling me, like, she acts like she's Turkish. I was like alienated from the Roma people
From
because they were own people, because they were telling me she acts like she's Turkish, she's so snobbish. They were telling me that.
But this is crazy. That's the question I wanted to ask, like, because it seems like you are oppressed from your own community. Meaning,
Yes.
if you don't fulfill these expectations, for example, going to work from a young age,
Yes.
then you will, I guess, feel excluded. But even though you fulfill the expectations of your community, for the society, it will still not be enough. And then you will always be oppressed either from your community, from inside, from outside, and you are always between fires, right?
Because this is why I always felt an outsider. I was not fitting into my community because, okay, I was better educated. So I was not having a common denominator to talk to my own people.
So it was a problem that you were too educated.
It was a problem at some point because they were seeing me as if I am being a snobbish, Like I was dressing nice. I was trying to talk nice. Yeah. My eating habits even were a problem,
She's eating salad now. She's eating salad. What the?
Absolutely.
What the fuck?
Absolutely. And they were like, okay, she just denies her roots, But it was not the case. I wouldn't be talking. Not my family.
Only your community.
Yeah, the people around me. Yes.
What's going on with your family? How, if your dad went to work at 9 years old, how is your dad so wise, let's say, for him not to apply it on you? How is it possible that your dad was like,
I don't know,
putting pressure on you? How is this guy so?
I know.
How is he like this? I want to meet him.
Can you come sit here with us?
I respect my dad more, honestly. Now that you ask this question, I don't know. I think he loves us. That's the thing.
And out of love, he gave up all his expectations and was trying to just see what you need or what? You have siblings, right?
I have one sibling. I mean, when I was a child, I was so mad at my father because he was not allowing us to play in a neighborhood with the other kids. If we were playing like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, he'd be like, just call the girls. They have to be home. I'm not allowing them to go out, And I was like, okay, I don't have friends. I don't have anyone. Like, I just feel so lonely. Why is he doing that to us? And so on. But now I understand. Now I understand. I mean, it brings the negative sides. Of course, I think I had a very lonely childhood. But it also made me become what I am now. Yeah.
When you were growing up, when did you feel like you were a minority? When was the time where you're like, oh shit, I'm different? Because as a child, you like children don't know things. Children don't see color. A child gets born and looks at me. I'm black, you're white, and stuff. But if we were playing together and we never knew that you're French, you're this, we will all get along, right? But then from parents and stuff, then you get to hear stuff, and then you go to the kindergarten and people are like, oh, he's black, oh, she's Roma, she's this, so I want to ask you, when did you feel like you
my
were
God,
minority?
I'm going to cry, I guess. No, just kidding. But it's a very very emotional.
That was serious.
No, it's very emotional. I'm not going to cry, but it's very personal also. So I gained a scholarship after high school.
Okay.
And I went to a private university. I know most of the people are like quite rich.
Can you imagine?
And I had the best, wonderful friends, like literally.
Yeah.
And we spent the years together. And then I again gained a scholarship and went to Budapest. And before I was going to Budapest, they came to my family. My grandmother, who is dead now. I hope she's okay. And and then my uncle was there. Oh my God, he's dead too. I hope he's okay too. So they came to my neighborhood and they then told me, we admire you. And I was like, why? What happened? And they were like, you came from these circumstances. You do not realize it now. but you just made it. Do you just realize? And then I was like, okay, yes, now I realize. And now that I understand how hard it was, it's just, yeah, I think my marvelous friends, I love them very much, Çağan, Gülce, Alper. Like, they made me realize that it was hard, and I made it, and then I realized that I was a minority.
It's so interesting.
Beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, the way you say the story is like you don't even say you made it out of what. It's like implicit, you know. Everyone kind of knows, okay, this was the whole point of the way you grew up, right? It's like you just made it. Is it correct what I'm saying? Like because
Out of nothing, like, it's just hard work.
but what did you mean? Like you made it out of the whole systemic oppression that you talked about before?
Like, if we are going to generalize it, of course, because, you know, I am the only one who made it to university, even in my neighborhood. I mean, there are more people who made it to university, of course, in my primary school, but in my neighborhood and my close circle of friends, I am the only one, and also my sister and the other members of my family too. But in the neighborhood, I was the only one.
So the first meaning of it was you made it to university?
Yes.
But the global meaning was you made it to something bigger, right? It's like you...
Yeah, in my personal and humble experience, yes.
Or the way you felt it inside of you, maybe?
Yes. Because, like, you know, you literally have to make everything yourself. I mean, I also empathize with the people who are coming from poor families, because they also come from the same situation. But the being minority adds on to that because of the social dynamics, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't have just this money concern. It has the social concerns, and it also has the psychological concerns. And I think I made through that. I dealt with imposter syndrome a lot afterwards, of course. I was like, why am I even here? You know, am I really deserving that? And that kind of questions. Because you see that you are living a way better life from the people that you grow up with. And you just cannot believe that it's real, you know?
When you talk about all this, Raoul, I feel like it's something that we talked about together already. Is it something you can relate to? Like,
oh, yes, of course. But if we start my story here, the episode's gonna be 4 hours.
New episode, but like, right, like growing like part of a minority, trying to feel that it's never enough, trying to feel rejected from different worlds, stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I relate a lot to your story, you know, and have a similar story as well with the neighborhood and everything. And it's I relate a lot, and I really understand your struggle, you know, and you know, I understand this. Like, you know, when people think about Roma people, it's always with a bad look, you know. It's also when people think about black people as well, it's like with a bad look, you know. But it's all about systemic oppression, and it's all like exactly what you just explained, you know. There's so much background behind it, you know. People don't understand that people are not born like this. You don't want to steal or sell drugs because you want to sell drugs. It's because you have to at some point, you know. And of course it doesn't make it good, you know, or anything, but yeah, I relate a lot to your story, you know.
I mean, it's great to hear that, and this is partially why I am sharing this, you know, because I think you also share the same sentiment. I also understand the mainstream people, because, you know, I understand you. Look. I totally understand.
Why are you looking at me like this?
I see through you.
Okay, so
just kidding, we love you.
Yeah, I mean, because, you know,
I got shot, man. I got shot, man.
We love you, bro.
Oh, give me some love. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's fine. I'm just trying not to forget what I was going to say. It's because it's funny.
It's funny for you.
I understand the mainstream people.
I understand the mainstream, because, you know, when they look at minorities, they see the crime part. And which is there. You know, I also do not support the minority groups which deny that crime exists and stereotypical characteristics are not true.
Yeah, as a compensation, right?
It's there. Look, crime
It is there. Yeah, it is there.
They are selling drugs. There is high rate of crime in that neighborhoods, in minorities. But the focus point should not be that. Focus point should be to erase them fundamentally. And it comes through political change, social action, economical investment.
It has been your story since always, and basically you also, Raoul. And when I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, I would be mad. I would be mad. I would feel like it's unfair. I would feel like crying, if I'm honest, because I would feel like, why the fuck is this shit applied on me? I don't want to make you cry, guys, but
It's okay. You're almost there.
just the way I feel. And I'm like, I would feel like fighting it, but like, how are you today? Did you find your peace with that? Like, did you?
I think it's the greatest gift in my life. Because, I literally believe that people are born in circumstances. Like, I born in this minority circumstance, but some people are born disabled. Some people are born super rich, but devoid of love. Everybody has their circumstances. Yes, if we put it into some context, it is maybe harder conditions, but I feel that this is my duty, and my duty is rooted in this, because I born in minority situation. Now I understand the situation very well, and I understand how I can be a better person in the world. I can only contribute to something that I understand, right?
Yeah.
And I understand it very well, and it just made me aware of things that I wouldn't be aware of if I was not born into these circumstances. Am I doing something actively at the moment? No, because I am honestly super tired. I am just taking a vacation.
But you are in acceptance phase. So
I accept it and love it. I love everything about it.
was it always like this, or
No.
when did you reach this point? Because it sounds so wise to me. And I feel like in my personal journey to reach such a state of acceptance on something that is that deep, I feel like it's impressive. Like,
yeah, I think it's like me being a little bit of philosophical personality. I always question, like, what is the meaning of life?
It's such a
what is the meaning of
tough
life?
question.
I mean, I really love French philosophers, by the way. And I was asking this question, but I realized that it is futile if I do not understand who I am. And I started to ask the question, who am I? And I just start to analyze, like, where I come from, what I have been through in life. And when you embrace yourself as a person, you embrace every situation that comes with it. And it just came naturally to me that this is the reason that I exist, and I can be useful. I can be a better person in the world. And this is why I love it.
And what helped you to accept it or to embrace yourself? So you write philosophy, but so I don't know I guess so many people who are listening are also in this sort of existential questions, asking who the hell am I and why am I there? What am I supposed to do, right? Like what helped you to actually find a sort of peace with that, right? To find a path forward.
Because, if you do not find the peace, then what you are going to do? You'll always be in the complaining situation. You're going to complain, oh, I don't think that's fair. Okay, then what? Who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about you in life if you do not care about you. And if you do not care about your situation and embrace it, then you can complain forever, but it will change nothing. And you are going to decay your own unique personality. Just, it gives me like so much power, when I think of it. And I say, I can really do something in life because I know it. And this makes me love it. I don't know.
And is there something that made you click about this? Was there a point in your life where you were kind of maybe stuck in the suffering, and at some point you were like, fuck, enough is enough, and...
I don't know.
No? Or
I don't know.
But
I understand the question very well. Can you rephrase it?
Like this state of peace that realizing that no one kind of cares, and if you don't do it yourself, no one will do it for you. Was there something at some point in your life that brought you to this realization? Or you just always had this with you?
Realization, of course not. It comes with the age, I guess, and also what you are experiencing in life. But for me, maybe it was just the moment that, I was always high achiever, actually. And at some time, I was feeling like very tired. And I question why I do these things. Like, I don't enjoy these courses at the university. Okay, I graduated at the first place, but why? Why did I do all these things, you know? Because then I found the answer because, you know, I was feeling rejected by the society because of the circumstances that I have born into. And I was trying to subconsciously make up for it, you know? Like, you know, I'm better than you. Like, you are this rich person who has all the means and stuff. But look at me. I don't have, like, anything and I still do it kind of things. And I now realize how dumb it is, you know? I cannot deny the fact that if I didn't work hard, I wouldn't have what I have. But also, on the other hand, it is something that makes your unique personality disappear. You know, you just become the clog in the machinery.
Yeah, you are
basically.
transparent. You're transparent, yeah.
Yes, everything is just dissolves. And then I said, I am enough with this. I just want to find myself, what is useful for my life. And I just asked about it. I thought about it, and then I came to the conclusion. And now I have very different objectives in life, I think, than most of my peers have.
If you were to be born again,
Hmm.
would you want to be a minority again or a privileged person?
Doesn't matter. You can always find a way to do things better.
I never heard this answer. I love it.
That's such a good answer.
Oh my days. It feels like there is so much confidence in this person. Like, give me whatever. I will make the most out of it.
I think that's the point, you know?
It's crazy. It's crazy. We always try to answer either yes or no to this. And you're like, I don't care. I'm the boss here. I'm going to make it.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, it's just how you see things, you know? Things happen, but they do not have a meaning. You just give them the meaning, and it's your personality. You just have to work on yourself. Then the outside conditions, they do not matter.
What can you tell today to all the minorities who are listening to this right now?
Remember the child inside you. Remember how you are born. Before you go to school, what do you like to do? You know? And I know it is not fair, and I know that most of the people will never understand you, but you first understand yourself and work on what you love, and then the rest of the things are going to come. That's it. But always find the child inside you.
When did you understand that?
What?
When?
I think 4 years ago or something, 3-4 years ago. I mean, I think it comes with the loneliness because, you know, I migrated from Turkey to Hungary. Then I had my friends there, but after 1.5 years, then I had to move to Vienna. You know, Vienna is not the most friendly city anyways.
So friendly.
It was considered the friendliest city in the world.
Because of you.
Days ago.
Because of you.
That's it? Is that real?
That's real, yeah. It's a fact.
I think
it's the biggest bullshit ever, but it's a fact.
I'm still annoyed at this.
Yeah, I'm still annoyed at that.
I'm gonna be unfriendly enough so that is not here anymore.
We're gonna be unfriendly now from now on.
So yeah, I was alone, and when you are alone, you just think. Then I thought.
You just think, you know?
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Thinking a lot.
So you had kind of no choice. At some point, the things came to you because
they came to me.
And you were not like, time to stop thinking, you know? Like.
Yeah, I mean, I am usually a very self-reflected person since my childhood. I always found it very exciting to understand people, their inner motives, also myself, you know. It's personality trait, I think, but also the circumstances. I mean, I think most of the migrants anyway are more mature than their ages because we had to endure so many things. Like when people look at us from the outside, they think, oh, they are living their best life in Europe. You are already European, but if you come from like a Middle Eastern country, they say, oh, she's in Europe and she lives her best life. She travels all the time and so on. But there's also another side to that, right? You spend a lot of time alone. You handle everything alone. There is like the psychological factor included to this. And I think this makes you mature.
Yeah. And how do you associate now to the Roma community?
for my individual history, it is ingrained in my personality. It's the core, it's as essence of me. And this is why I am a part of it, you know? And there is also this perspective to it. It's just I sometimes feel so guilty, you know, because I know that people that I grow up with, they are not living the same life as I do. And I feel so incapable because I cannot help them at the moment. There is also this side to it.
And what is the thing that all this gave you? If you think of one character trait where you think you identify so much with thanks to your past, thanks to what you built yourself from, what would you say it is?
I think it's been authentic. As you said, I came to a point that I really do not care what people think about me because I know what I want and I know what I have been gone through. I know my circumstances. And also it gave me so much self-love towards myself. And since it gave self-love, I also love people more. I think this is how I characterize myself.
Beautiful, beautiful.
It's great what you shared, you know. It's a beautiful story. And I think it's also good for the people who are listening, you know, to understand as well what's happening in the Roma community, in the Roma world. It brings great awareness, you know, and I hope that everyone shares this because I think it's such an important thing to know and to learn about and just to be aware and woke about things that are happening in the world.
Because what's the meaning of being a minority anyways? You're just different and you are less in numbers. And I think every one of us as an individual is different anyways. It's, I think, also comes to this individual level, right?
Yeah.
So, yes.
You closed it. You summarized it all.
Summarized the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tunay,
Having
for this.
Thank you, Tunay.
Thank you.
Inspiring and loving.
Loving.